Hey guys, welcome to this episode of SHODO Showdown. As always, I'm your host, the Frozen Stratos, and this is the show that breaks down all the SHODO, SODO, and Yudo news that came out this week. And then after that, we're going to hop over to the Candy Toy Corner to check out some oddities I have in my collection, or maybe give you some tips and tricks on handling your own. Anyways, let's get started with the news. Alright, so first up, on January 13th, 2018, we got our very first look at the Guardian set for the SODO build line. It consists of Guardian Suit Type A, Guardian Armor Type Figure, Guardian Armor Type Cross Armor Set A, Guardian Armor Type Cross Armor Set B, and Guardian Suit Type B. Now, this is the first time that we're going to get our very own, retail release of grunt figures, grunt suits, and another thing on top of that, they're going all in on trying to get you every single Guardian there is. The Guardian armor type, it comes with a base figure, as you saw, and then two different armor sets. Set A comes with the Toto and Faust decals, while Cross Armor Set B comes with the Hokuto and Foundation X ones from the movie, the recent movie. Each of these boxes are going to come with weapons. The Guardians for the bodies, those regular Guardian bodies, each of those comes with a gun weapon, and then the armor itself comes with the sword variant. Now, these weapons are technically the same and don't transform in the show, but due to production, they had to change the mold a bit to make it, melee compatible and gun compatible. Let's see. On top of that, all of them come with stands. That's pretty good, except for the figure for the armor type. That one does not have a stand, and that's probably because it already has a lot of parts to begin with. The Guardian armor types, that's going to be working sort of like the Kamen Rider X-Aid SODO sets. So, and the build SODO sets for Cross Dragon and Grease, presumably. I know those haven't been released yet, but it's going to be looking somewhat similar. Anyways, and they're going to be releasing them at 420 yen before tax. I hear that it is a price increase. I'm not entirely sure. The description in the translations for the blog were a little iffy, so I'm not quite sure. And yeah, these come with 8 figures per case, and they're going to be releasing April this year. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Next up, we have easily our biggest news this week. On January 19th, 2018, we got our first full look at the Lupinranger versus Patoranger Yudo set, and these guys look incredible. These new figures include every Lupinranger, every Patoranger, and an accessory set, which is kind of, it's really cool for reasons I'll explain in a bit. But inside that accessory set, we get 6 different of their main changers. They just have the different gimmick toys loaded in. Actually 8 different ones. 2 of them include the Good Striker, and then we have their main weapons and hands. They have the hands. And I'm assuming those are left over from the Q-Ranger figures. Anyway, outside of that, the main thing that the Candy Toy blog, links in the description to that down below, the main things in the Candy Toy blog that they wanted to cite, and these are the developers of these toys, they wanted to cite the 3 biggest improvements they made on the mold, coming from Q-Ranger, and that would be selection, seals, and sculpt. Now, for the selection, people have been complaining that why is it only just 2 Luckies and a Tsurugi as different figures? Well, now we have all 6, so that's covered. Then we have the seals. The biggest problem that people had was that 1, there were too many, and 2, they were really hard to apply and put over all this intricate detail. So what they did They shifted the budget around a little bit, and they got us some paint. And then all the stickers we have to apply are on bigger, large surfaces, so it's easier. It's far easier. Then we have the sculpts, and they said they had problems with the meat puncture. That just comes from the Google translation of the Candy Toy blog. But basically what it says is that there was a big hole in the arm, and they just had to get rid of it for the Kyuranger figures. On top of that, Kyuranger figures, they were twig-like or something, so they wanted to beef them up, and these guys are definitely a lot beefier. Now, not to the level of, Dino Charge and all the action heroes and stuff, but definitely a lot more built, and I like it. Another thing, we have our first Yudo female sculpt. Now, again, we didn't get any female figures in the Kyuranger assortment, but we are getting them here, and the most interesting part to me is how they're going to be handling the skirts. They flap up, I think, on the sides and in the front. They did well for the Poppy figure. That was pretty good. These proportions, borderlining toward the action hero looking figures, but not as bad. Can't really tell if these guys have their waist swivel, but we'll see. And I like them. I like these figures. So let's talk about like budget stuff. These guys are remaining at a low 380 yen, which is the same price as the Kyuranger figures. How I think they were able to make that happen budgetary-wise is making that accessory set. The only other time we've had, like, single figures. Take a look at the Kyuranger line and what we have in build. For build, Cobra and Bat, they came with one figure, little bit of paint, and one accessory. Same thing on the Kyurangers. One figure, one weapon, and a little bit of paint. I think since they pushed all of the accessories into one set, they funneled enough money for one figure into that one box, and then that freed up the space to add more plastic, which made them beefier, and more paint. And I think it also helped that the female figures probably don't have as much plastic, so that maybe also got funneled into the male figures. That might be why we got this. It's only speculation, but that's where my mind is on that right now. But yes, these are very exciting. Super happy to have these, and yeah, bring them on. I've already got them pre-ordered. Alright, let's move into our last news segment of the week. Alright, on January 20th, 2018, we got our first looks at the Doctor and Game half bodies. Now, if you've been keeping up with Build and all of its, other, let's say, Legend Rider forms, you know that Build doesn't exactly have his own sort of pseudo form for the Legend Riders. If you look at Xaid, he had his ghost form. If you look at Gaim, he had a drive form. But, there's a ton of sharing in that department, and it gave them all different forms. Except for in the movie, the crossover movie, I believe he tries to use Xaid's bottles and turns directly into Xaid, except with a Build belt, and that's shown in the blog as well. But the manufacturers are like, screw it! We're gonna make these, because assets are already made for the Doctor half and the Game half bodies. Those can be viewed in the Gonverizing 3D models. So if you take a look at that game, you get to sort of see what they're supposed to look like. But those half bodies that would be generated from those bottles, you never truly see them together as a best match. So the SHODO line just really wants to do that, and we get our first look of it. It's going to be released in Build 6, in Build Lab 6, and the Doctor half, let's see, it has a stethoscope, a soft rubber stethoscope, and the gamer half comes with a twin breaker in beam mode. So I believe Vangelis said it on Twitter. He loves the sort of Tetris that they have to do to get this to work in a budgetary sense, and I have to agree. So yeah, the prices will remain the same for this release, presumably. They didn't say anything else. Anyways, outside of that, let's move on to the Candy Toy Corner. This is the Candy Toy Corner, where I'm basically going to be taking a look at some of the oddities and maybe some of the customs that I've done for my collection. Let's see. As you can see, collection is here, doing fine. But it's missing some members because I took them down for this spotlight. The subject for today is my SHODO Attack figure. Alright. Now, the more eagle-eyed viewer is going to notice that, yes, this is taking parts from the Motion Revive Attack. You would be right. Now, from the I've used the Kamen Rider Kabuto base body for the SHODO version of this, and then cobbled together the Motion Revive chest, shoulders, belt, and head. Oh, and hand and swords. So let's sort of break this down. Obviously, the swords, you just take the swords. For the hand, what I did, now, if you look at the actual Motion Revive figure hands, they come with this cuff. I had to basically cut that off and round out this peg so that it can fit in, you know, the SHODO fist hole. And I think I did pretty good. That was a relatively easy portion of this custom. Now let's move on to the belt. Again, pretty easy. All you had to do was cut it out with some like plastic nippers, shave it down with some what do you call it? An X-Acto knife, and glue it on top. The Kabuto driver, it comes out, comes out pretty easily. So, I mean, yours is likely to come with it out of package anyway, or off of him anyway, out of package, right out of package. So, yeah, that should be fine. Next up is the shoulders. Now, these were pretty difficult, only because I had to excavate the original shoulders, right? I had to excavate that. I had to take out these arm pieces and basically hollow it out. Now, I didn't use the regular SHODO chest scheme because I had to connect it with like the original one is connected by this very soft plastic. I'm very hesitant to say that I like this style of it, but this is what they went with, and it just wouldn't work with the custom I was doing. So what I had to do was excavate the shoulder, even shave down the original shoulder, and insert these. Now, if you notice, they're somewhat separated. They're a little offset from the torso. That's because I needed a bit more range of motion. It doesn't provide the most, but it's, you know, it's workable. Now, these shoulders, I wanted these shoulders for a second reason, so that I could retain the sword gimmick to where you can place them in. So that's good. Let's move on to the head, which was another major excavation. If you'll notice, this is really rough. Be careful if you're going to be doing this, because this chest, or what am I saying, this chin got nicked, and I had to paint over it. Hopefully you didn't notice until I pointed it out. So it looks fine enough now, and it doesn't get the same range of motion as the standard Kabuto Shodo, That's because there's just not enough room in there. As you can see, when you compare the two versions of the Motion Revive and the Shodo version, one, the neck's connected, so you gotta snap that off. But also, there's this lip back here that allows for more range of motion that these guys just don't have. So, hence, all I get is the swivel. Now, I'd say the biggest part of this custom was excavating the chest. And also, you can see that I need to reinforce it with a bit of, what is that, napkin? Yeah, I used a napkin to reinforce that and like the shoulder here. But this piece here, it comes from the Shodo figure. It does not come from the Motion Revive figure. Let's take a look at the inside of the Motion Revive Kabuto. Give me a sec. Alright, so regretfully, I've sort of stripped the screw in there, but let's see, the Gattack chest will do just fine to take a look at. Now again, there would be a pole in between connecting the head and the chest, but you know, couldn't open it up. So here, the reason it didn't have the shoulder stuff is because they use ball joints in here, which was pretty good, but I had to excavate all that out. Now, I did it way better for, let's see, where'd it go? I did it way better for my Zabi chest, but that'll be coming later in a part 2, because I just want to focus on Gattack now. A lot of the pitfalls of this custom were remedied in that one, but yeah, I excavated it, and this let's see, this screw, I made a hole. I made a hole in this using my Dremel, so that it would accept this and hopefully like sit better. But like this screw cannot connect back into this chest because, well, it's been demolished. But yeah, that was really the most difficult part, figuring that out. Like, a lot of it was cutting away at stuff. And if you take a look, this is sort of loose. That's because of two things. I shaved off, using my Dremel again, parts of this so that I could get some extra range of motion. Let's plug it back in. Oops. Yeah, so I shaved those parts off, but the chest is still like extra jiggly. And when you put the head on, that jiggliness goes away. Not entirely, mind you, but for the most part, it's stable. This chest is not secured. Again, fixed in my Zabi, but I like it just fine. Like, the chest doesn't come apart too often, so it works. It works perfectly. Again, this is a very flawed custom, but I feel like it gets the job done. I had to do some touch-ups because I like chunked out some bits where I shouldn't have, but outside of that, yeah, this is my Shodo Gattack. I'm really proud of this. Again, I wanted to do this to remedy the legs. Now, in the Shodo, what am I talking about? In the Motion Revive series, it's exemplified here, but they had tons of leg problems, especially in this wave, because a lot of the other figures I have don't have this issue, but this splits, and you can see remnants of me attempting to fix it multiple times. I was able to fix the Gattack leg a few times, but I just didn't want to have to deal with that anymore, because he had broken yet again recently. But
this has been like worked on multiple times. This one I just had to fuse in place, this bottom one, and I didn't want that anymore. I didn't want to have to deal with that. So screw it. I got rid of it, and now we have this. And this is good. This is very good. Anyway, oops. Anyway, if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to answer them. Outside of that, that's been Candy Toy Corner. All right. Let's move on to the outro.
And with that, we are at the end of the very first episode of SHODO Showdown. If you stuck around till now, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. This is going to be a very new show on the channel. I know we're launching a lot of stuff, but yeah, again, if you enjoyed it, tell me in the comments down below. What else do you want me to cover? I'm going to be trying to get some like weekly news coming out. And yeah, this was just a real fun time for me. And, you know, this is just going to be added to our regular content. So if you want to check out our watch-alongs, our reviews, that's on this channel. Please subscribe if you enjoy stuff from me, if you enjoy stuff like this. Anyways, guys, that just about does it. Keep it juicy.